Okay, so we're back. Wait, no, we're not back. Hang on. Quick. Okay. Now we're back. Sorry about that. Forgot to turn off the music. So here we are. Oh, and that was just so YouTube doesn't get me on that little bit. Stop doing that. Okay, I'm in control here, not you. All right. Don't you hate it when your computer doesn't obey your commands? Anyways, that was a little bit of Stone of Remembrance by Gallibraid. So, giving credit to the artist. Hopefully YouTube doesn't delete my video for that little bit. But it's good music, so I'm leaving it in. I'm not going to cut it out. So, left off here. Here's the mountain fold and the valley fold, which forms the breast, and then the mountain fold here and the valley fold underneath it that forms the chin. There's a side view. There is a modification section, so don't worry about that. That's a cool picture. That's also a cool picture of the backside. And you can see here, I've already accounted for this in the crease pattern. I modified I modified these transition creases and the placement of these and these as well. That's another cool picture. That's also a really cool picture. Alright, moving on. So here I'm just holding this whole transition section in place with the clip so it doesn't spring apart on me, because that would be bad. And down here you can see the design process in the works, and the stick figure over here, which I believe is what Robert Lang calls the tree diagram or something like that. It's in his book, Origami Design Secrets. He explains how to do this. This is not exactly how I design models, but it is how I model them before I actually design them. And I'll go into all that in another tutorial. So, moving on. This is with it all clipped together, and this will become the Husky. And also back here you can kind of see a stick figure of the girl. Oh, and in the stick figure, this is before I actually started designing. I wanted her to have legs, but that didn't work out because I ran out of paper space, and I didn't want to have to use up a whole lot of paper for the girl, because I needed a lot of paper to make that transition section. Transition section. Say that 10 times fast. That comes out. It starts right about here inside, and then it comes down and across and up, and then this way, and then back down to the bottom of the paper. And over here again, this is the modified section. I figured it would be easier to have her kneeling rather than trying to make legs and try to figure out where I can get more units to make a longer dress. So I just decided to have her kneeling instead and cut off, what is that, 5 units for the calves and then 5 units for the thighs, which would be 10 altogether, and just make it 5. So here you can see this is where you end up doubling the height of the center of the dog. That is this section right in here. Follow my mouse. Okay, that's not working. There we go. That's this section where all the heights are doubled. And then the legs are still 1 unit high. So here is the 1 unit, and then this is 2 units. Okay. So these will be the front paws. This is going to be an extra flap that we don't need. We'll get rid of it later. We're just going to fold it backwards inside the model. This will be an ear. There's another flap. Stop. Okay. There's another flap on the other side of this layer that you can't see. It's down here. That will be the snout, and this is the other ear, and then here's the other extra flap and the right foreleg. So here we go. This will be the snout, ear, extra flap, foreleg, extra flap, foreleg. And wow, that changed just in time. So here's the tail, and this will be the hind leg. Here I've started folding the toes on each hind leg. We're going to end up with a flap over here that we don't need, and once again we'll just fold it inside the model. So you see up here we have this series of layers. That is the flap that was sticking out here that I said we were going to fold back. And you see in here I've started narrowing out the ears and the snout to make it look real instead of like a wedge. And that's just a detail of the hind leg toes. The toes won't actually be that big, but this is just to take up paper. Now what you can do, stop. What you can do is, instead of folding these all the way back, like I did, is extend them so they stick straight up, and then pull out some layers and make them into wings. But as far as I know, this girl's dog is not dead yet, so it probably wasn't appropriate for me to put wings on the dog and not on the girl as well. So hopefully that doesn't happen anytime soon. That would be depressing. Alright, here I'm thinning out the tail, so once again it starts to take on the shape of a tail and not just a wedge. Adding some more detail for the ears. I went through so many revisions trying to figure out how to make the ears look just right, and in the end it came down to being just really simple. Just fold them back. Here I was folding them back, then folding them forward, and then it started to look, the head started to look more like a pig, and that wasn't right. So I ended up just folding the ears back, and that looked fine. Okay, here you can see I've gone and done more detail on the toes of the front legs. Alright, these are the fingers of the girl. So we got 2, 3, 4, 5 fingers, which is good because that's what I designed it for. This series of folds is really great for pulling out appendages where you need them to be very narrow. So you can do this pattern many times if you want two very thin appendages. And a close-up. Okay, here's the detail of the hind leg. Remember, these were back here. I just swung it forward and shaped the back thigh so that it looks like it's actually sitting down. And stop it. There we go. So it looks like it's actually sitting down, when in reality this is just a flap that was back here and I swung it forwards. Okay, so here's how you make box pleating look pretty. You're going to pull out the layers of the hair, not all the way out, but just enough so you get this really nice staggered look of various layers of hair. So you're going to do that on the top, the middle, and the bottom. Be able to see that a little bit better here. So I've only pulled out 1, 2 layers on these long long appendages, and then 4 on each of these. You can do more up here, but I just decided not to because it might look a little funky. There's a detail, and here is how you make the points of the hair a little more detailed. Again, so it doesn't just look like blocks like that. You want it to look a little more realistic. This is done. I can't describe in words how this is done, how that effect works. It's not hard. It's just kind of difficult to figure out the first time through. So I'll mention that in a design tutorial at some point after this one. Say detail of the face. Be careful, because here you have probably, I think, about 8 layers of paper, and 8 layers of paper over here, and you're trying to fold through all 8 layers of paper, and then there's only 1 layer of paper here. That face is a single surface. There's nothing behind it. So I don't know if you'll be able to see it in the picture. It started to tear right here on the chin. It didn't go all the way through, but it started. So just be careful of that. Here again is how you make box pudding look not boxy. You start pulling out diagonal layers, and that will give you a curve like this and like that. And what I'm going to do is wrap this around behind the arm to create a sleeve effect, so it looks like her arm is coming out of a sleeve. Now we're going to start wet folding. So you'll need a spray bottle for this. Wet folding is where you partially unfold a section of the model and then spray it with water, not a lot, but enough to get it damp, and then you refold it and then hold it all in place with, clothespins, clips, rubber bands, whatever. Use clothespins and clips use clothespins on the outside where people are actually going to see. Reason being, clothespins have a flat surface along the point, or right here it's flat, and it's not going to leave a mark. Use clips for the inside because they have they're not sharp points, but they're very thin and they're rounded. So if I were to put this clip on the outside right here, once it's dried and I take the clip off, you'll end up with indentations wherever the edges of the clip went. Rubber bands you would use for areas that you want to be rounded, because they're going to squeeze evenly all the way around and you'll get more of a circular finish. So that's what I mean. These clips and clothespins, that's the flat surface I was talking about. So when you take a clothespin off, stop it. My computer, my goodness. So when you take the clothespins off, it's not going to leave a mark, or it might, but it'll be in a large rectangle. It'll be whatever shape that that flat surface is. So the way to get around that is to just take a nail file or a piece of sandpaper and just file down the edges on each of those flat surfaces, and that'll make it round. But really, it's not that big of a deal, so you probably don't have to worry about that. It's never been a problem for me. Just keep these on the internal structure and these on the outternal structure, or keep these in areas where it doesn't matter. Like, no one's going to see it. This is a very professional setup for keeping everything in place. The clothespins are holding the transition section together, this little clip, and that's a trick I came up with. When you run out of clothespins, you can put a piece of paper over the area you're trying to hold in place, and that will take the edge off, and it won't leave as noticeable indentions.